everybody, and welcome back to the WTF1 podcast post Saudi Arabia edition. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Tom Bellingham, the WTF1 founder, and he's got a point on the board. Well done with your Max cape. I can see it vibrant in the background. And Katie Fairman, the WTF1 author. Nico Rosberg hasn't made his return yet, so you can't really get in on the action. How are you both? Are you doing all right after Saudi?
Very well, thanks.
Oh, very well, thanks. I wonder why. We'll dive into that a bit later on. Katie, how are you? Neutrality.
I'm good. I'm just tired, but such is life.
Don't worry, the energy will.
I've got caffeine as well.
There you go. We've got caffeine. Tom is absolutely
good.
squigging the life out of that. Love that. Audio listeners have no idea what he's just drunk, but I assume that's coffee. Anyway, this podcast is sponsored by Elgato, our season-long partners, and making us sound beautiful, look adequate, and just generally be professional. So thank you, Elgato, for sponsoring this podcast for the entire season. And we're also joined by Team WTF1 members who are watching us right now live as we record. They've had 10 minutes of preamble rubbish that we've just been spieling. If you want to also hear that, then you have to go and join Team WTF1. We'll be releasing our race podcast on YouTube on Tuesday. So obviously, as you can see, if you're watching it right now on YouTube, it comes out on Tuesday. But if you want to see it on Monday, you have to join Team WTF1. Lots of other great benefits as well. So go check that out. Right, here we go then. Let's get into some fan 3-word race reviews. He's rubbing his hands, looking at his little smirk face. Smug face. Smirk face? The smirk on his face. Anyway. Gagatkar _Supermax, D Tobez, Perez was robbed, Bryn Reynaldo, is there points, and Tommy.Garavet, what a battle. And you've even included a little emoji, so I'm not sure if that counts as half a word.
Disqualified.
But either way, disqualified from the 3-word review. But yes, it was indeed a Supermax occasion. Perez, oh God, absolutely heartbroken for him. I'm sure Katie especially, Perez is one of your favourite drivers and you will go into how emotional you are. Is there points? Of course, that's referring to Hamilton, questioning whether you get points for 10th. I don't know if that was just pure rage. I'm sure he's been in Formula One long enough to know how far the points go down. And of course, it was a great battle. So let's dive into my 3-word race review now. Huge respect shown. And that's, of course, referring to Leclerc versus Verstappen. I can see Tommy just...
Not between us.
No, absolutely no respect on this podcast. Katie is quite rightly in the middle of this Team WTF1 live podcast. I don't know if that's going to be the same way.
I think it will be, yeah.
For Tuesday as well.
Probably good for that, yeah.
Katie is separating us. But there was a huge amount of respect shown between Verstappen and Leclerc. Once again, on track. There were moments where it's pushing the line a little bit. Verstappen loves to do his thing on a safety car restart where he gets alongside and tries to get, just a little bit of a sort of advantage over Leclerc, but Leclerc was having absolutely none of it and ran him out of road, which I also enjoyed. Just little bits here and there, but I think overall, it seems as though Verstappen in particular, obviously, because Verstappen is in both examples of him versus Hamilton and him versus Leclerc, driving slightly differently. Whether that's because of the race directors, whether that's because he has different kind of respect for Leclerc or whatever, that's obviously just speculation. But they have been racing for many, many years together. Since karting, it's been Charles Leclerc versus Max Verstappen. It's just an incident. I'm sure everybody has seen that. But yeah, lots of respect, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, for now at least, they're showing respect. I mean, there is one thing I guess it is extremely refreshing to see after the title got so bitter at the end of last season. And it was just, while it was great and fierce, and that is part of Formula One, it is a bit more refreshing to see the respect there. But then I guess you can argue that it's race 2, not race 20, whether we'll still get that in race 20. Me and Matt will have fallen out by then anyway, so we won't be on the podcast to talk about it. But
you make a good point, actually, because Hamilton versus Verstappen,
it started off a little bit.
It was
like
actually
that.
quite amicable, wasn't it, at the start?
Yeah. And also one example that just popped into my mind, especially with you mentioning about, there were old karting rivals, certain Rosberg and Hamilton were old karting buddies, weren't they? And I think after Bahrain 2014, they had an amazing battle, and they're like, "Oh, well done, mate," and wrestling, pretending to wrestle each other, and then 5 races later they're throwing caps at each other, and handbags are out. So it's like one of those things where it's going to be very interesting to see how that progresses. But I do agree with you that Max is holding back a little. There were a few moments in that race where I was like, if that was Hamilton at the end of last year, he would have absolutely sent it there. And he didn't. And whether that's the new rules that he knows it's easier to overtake later, or he knows that maybe he has changed ever so slightly while he's still an aggressive driver, that he's thought, look, maybe he has thought, even if he's not the kind of driver that would admit it, but Silverstone, if I'd have just let Hamilton through, I'd have won the championship so easily, and I almost lost the title through that. So yeah, maybe there's just a little bit in his head that's like, this is a marathon, not a sprint, as someone famously
Tortoise in the hair or whatever. Yeah, I think it's a weird one to compare a little bit, because obviously the circumstances are very different. Last year, Max was fighting for a championship with Lewis. It was a penultimate race of the season. And also with Lewis, they had a history of having moments such as Silverstone, Monza, for example. So there might have been a slightly different way that he approached the scenario last year. But yeah, it is great to see good racing. It sounds daft because that's literally the point of Formula One, is for it to be racing and overtakes and stuff like that. But we have had we've been a bit starved of battles over the last few years with the Mercedes domination that we've seen in terms of battles for the lead, at least. So yeah, I'm just happy to have two great fights in a row. It is similar to 2021, where we had Hamilton and Verstappen. Look at Bahrain in last year, for example. After that race, they were very much like hugging and, oh, well done, mate, that was a great battle, and all really happy. And then how it's soured over the year. So I think just take it in while we still can, guys, because it might not be quite as sweet and clean as we get on further in the season if they're still racing against each other.
Yeah, I think it only takes one crash to change everything, right? And I suppose, especially if it's a 50-50 and they both disagree, maybe that respect will be lost. But I do think, as though, from my perspective, Verstappen almost knew that he could send it on Hamilton, and Hamilton probably wouldn't close the door. Like, Lewis doesn't appear to be as aggressive of a defender than Leclerc would be. And maybe that is because of the past experience, that Max knows that won't work with Leclerc. And if they both crash out, again, you make a good point, Katie. If they crashed out in Saudi Arabia last year, Max was, it was advantage Max. I'm not saying Max was trying to crash into him, but he could take more risks knowing that if they both DNF'd, it doesn't matter. But it being the second race of the season, also maturity as well. It kicks in. These experiences that Max had last year, fighting for a title for the first time ever, obviously winning as well. He would have learned a lot from last year. And you make a good point about Silverstone as well, Tommy. All these points matter. And scoring none in Bahrain, having again another DNF in Saudi would have been a big problem for Max. So yeah, lots of different factors and variables for sure. Next question. GW Stav W. Is the DRS drama that we've seen today or yesterday, as well as last year, evidence that it should be scrapped? I don't think DRS should be scrapped. I think that Formula One still needs an element of assistance for the attacking driver, whether that is DRS or whether that's push to pass or whatever. I still think there needs to be some kind of element of that, because, if there's two very similarly paced drivers, if the car behind doesn't get some sort of aid, they're just going to stay line astern a lot of the time, unless, of course, the defending driver makes a mistake. Of course, the DRS drama is in relation to the DRS chicken game that they were playing, or you go first, into the last corner. And I think that more just stresses towards where the DRS detection zone is. If that's towards or past the final corner, maybe they don't start playing around like that. But we also made in a video that you can see, this has gone live today if you're watching Team WTF via Team WTF1, or yesterday if you're watching tomorrow, is around, it's only a problem for the lead cars if two cars are clear of the rest of the field. They can play these silly games. It feels a bit odd to watch it, and I'm not sure I'm a massive fan of it. But I've also seen a lot of fans saying, I loved it. I loved the fact they were both locking up and, trying to, make the other person go over the DRS detection line first. I don't know if that's purely what Formula One is about, and I don't really want to see much of that moving forward personally. But it seems as though that kind of drama is also what a lot of people live for. So I can also see that side. It was exciting, but it could also be very dangerous. We saw last year Hamilton literally drive into the back of Verstappen. So there's going to be levels to it where it could get very dangerous.
Totally. I think DRS should stay for now. I think it's been a key player in Formula One, and the drivers seem to think it's a good thing to have. And I think Verstappen yesterday was saying that, we wouldn't have had the battle that we did without it. So I think it's an important, like you say, Matt, to have some sort of element to help the car behind and encourage overtakes. But I do feel yesterday with Verstappen and Leclerc, it just got a bit too silly. Obviously, we didn't see quite the extent that we had with Hamilton and Verstappen last year. Obviously, within that, there was the whole let him pass scenario. So it wasn't just a case of just fighting for the lead and DRS chicken. There was another element to it. But yeah, I feel like the FIA, the race director, maybe in Australia in the drivers' meeting, needs to just be a bit more firm and say, look, guys, I don't want any more funny business. You treat the DRS with respect and the zones and stuff like that.
The DRS with
they're
respect.
Never doing that though, are they?
No, they're never doing it. And, it's not the first time we've seen it, as we mentioned. We saw it here in Saudi last year. Also, Canada 2013 with Alonso and Hamilton is another example that comes to mind. If you haven't seen that, I watched that again on YouTube last night. Don't obviously leave the podcast now to watch it, but make a note and watch it after the podcast, because even just watching the clip and hearing the cars is worth it. But yeah, also seeing the example of the DRS chicken has been appropriately named. So yeah, it's not a new thing, and drivers have been doing it for a long time, but it did get a bit out of hand yesterday, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. It's a difficult one, because I do think DRS has its place, and I kind of liked, especially in Bahrain, that you had that moment. And we'll go into this later with my 3-word race review, but like, it's cool when the other car can fight back and, they get DRS back. But the way that was placed was, kind of, it just made it a bit, maybe farcical is a bit too much, but it does look a bit comical and silly for Formula One to watch a driver try and go as slow as possible. It doesn't really look right. I'm not against a driver waiting for a move or something for the next corner, but actually both slamming the brakes on for a DRS thing, I think that's where it goes too far. But maybe it's just Saudi, because like you say, 2 of the examples are Saudi, and it's not happened anywhere else apart from, like say, Montreal years ago. So I do think it will be interesting to, if that does happen again, whether they start to have a look into DRS and go, right, we need to have a rethink here, because the dangers, it is dangerous to be slamming the brakes on and doing that. And I think it could potentially get a bit silly, but I agree. They're not gonna do that, are they? If there's cars 3 seconds back, they're doing it because they've got a massive lead and there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's a very specific scenario where this happens. I think also, how do you police the DRS chicken game anyway? I braked early. How early is to braking early? And to be fair, both drivers are at fault because they're both playing the game. Like, they both massively locked up into that final corner. And yeah, it just does seem to be very track specific as well. The fact that there was 3 DRS zones, the second of which was on the run down towards the final corner, where Verstappen, with his straight line speed anyway, had massive overspeed and could easily choose whether to go past or not. But then having another massively long straight meant that you didn't actually want to be leading coming out the final corner, because if you make a move, the other car can obviously do a little bit of a switchback and then get the run and get back past. I don't know if there's many tracks that have that sort of luxury for the overtaking car to have. So maybe we won't see it all too often moving forward. But it is an interesting one. Let us know in the comments what you think about the whole DRS drama. But no, I don't think DRS should be scrapped just because of 1 or 2 incidents we see over the years. Henrik17 asks, who has the most powerful engine as of now? Red Bull powertrains, Honda, as they were known before, or Ferrari? I love how Mercedes just aren't in that question.
Yeah.
Can you imagine them telling us that last year? A different approach in terms of low, high downforce setups makes it hard to tell, in my opinion. I mean, you make a good point, Henrik. We don't physically know because we clearly Ferrari were running a much more high downforce setup, which clearly fit more with their philosophy, and that's exactly how they wanted to approach it: was be fast in that first sector, but then be very defensive in the middle and last. And it was working for the majority of the race. You can't say that their way of going about things didn't work. But then, of course, there was the VSC. Then Max managed to get within that 1 second, and then once he was in that DRS, it was pretty much Max's to lose because he had that speed boost as well as the straight line speed anyway because of the lower downforce setup. So it's difficult to say. Obviously, Red Bull have had more reliability issues if we look at Bahrain, but it seems relatively even, to be honest, and that's what we want to see: Ferrari and Red Bull going head to head, and not one team completely clear.
I thought that part of it was absolutely fascinating, to be honest, that they'd set up in different ways, because it looked like Leclerc, when he was, and we'll never know, but when he was behind Perez, before Perez obviously had his problem, whether Leclerc would have tried a move, but obviously he was a lot faster in the first sector. That's where Ferrari gained all their time. We saw it in qualifying how much quicker they were, and then Red Bull could come back on the straights. That worked really well for a lot of the race, actually. And even when Max was behind, it worked really well for Leclerc because Max couldn't really get within DRS, and Leclerc could always just, if Max got close, nail a really good first sector and he'd be out of it again. And then obviously Red Bull, it had the different setup where they were just rapid on the straight. And that meant that even on the final lap, when Leclerc had DRS, he didn't close in nowhere near as much. It almost neutralized. It was almost neutralized the speed, maybe for a little bit quicker when Leclerc had the DRS and Verstappen didn't. That's how much of an advantage the Red Bull had on the straight. But I think a lot of that is how they set up their car, and they obviously believed, they had enough downforce in the rest of the track and happy to sort of sacrifice the first sector a little. But it's one of those things where it was such a fascinating battle that whoever came out on top, you'd have just been like, oh yes, they played it brilliantly. But it was such a fine balancing act. Like, it could have gone either way between them. And that's what, for me, is making the season so good, because they do seem genuinely really, really close.
And also, you said it could have gone either way. The lap that Alex Alban brought out the yellow flag was the lap that Charles, I know that's going to sound, oh yeah, fanboy, but he was close. He was like half a second back. And I was like, maybe this is the one. And then, of course, Alex dive bomb Stroll. But sorry, anyway, back to me not being a fanboy.
No, you got to defend your driver, right? That's what we're here for. But yeah, like both of you have said, it's a very difficult thing to judge at the moment. We've been at two very different circuits. It's still incredibly early on in the season. If I had to pick one, so I don't sit on the fence, because I know you guys like to pick on me when I do that, I'd maybe say Ferrari. But who knows? No, I don't think either Red Bull or Ferrari know, to be honest with you. So I don't know if us guys are going to be able to tell you specifically who is the faster. But yeah, Ferrari definitely seems to have a more reliable package, that's for certain. And also the Ferrari PU has obviously benefited the likes of Alfa Romeo and Haas. Whereas if you look at the other customer teams, if you can call AlphaTauri that, for Red Bull powertrains, Yuki Tsunoda had another shocker, just problem after problem. He seems to think that the reason he couldn't start the race yesterday might be to do with the powertrain, power unit. But yeah, I think I would be tempted to say Ferrari for this.
Fair. But to be fair, Henrik, I love how we've gone, reliability, because we don't really know the answer. He's like, who has the most powerful engine? I think
it could be circuit dependent as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they could swap, which again makes for a fascinating title battle.
Please.
So
yeah, exactly.
Bring it on.
And I think Tommy highlights it well. They were different setups, and it's not more about Red Bull have a ridiculous engine, because if they had a ridiculous engine and also were running a reasonable amount of downforce, they wouldn't have been slower quite significantly slower in the first sector than Ferrari. So I think it's very comparable between the two. Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning in your pants. It's time to clear out that winter bush and join the other 4 million men who trust Manscaped. Use code WTF1 to get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Manscaped are the global leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming and have forever changed the grooming game with their amazing Performance Package 4.0. Inside this ball care bundle, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is designed to trim hair on loose skin. It's also waterproof and equipped with an LED light, so you bet it's a major key to the new shower routine. The Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags and tugs in those delicate nose and ear holes. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Tommy, your 3-word race review, please.
My 3-word race review is battles last longer. And this is about the 2022 regulations. We were a little bit on the fence after the first race. It's still only 2 races, but they're pretty damn good. I mean, I'll shout out my dad, actually, who texted me after the race, who said to me, you know, when we were chatting about the race, it's so great that people can actually fight back after a move. And I totally agree with that. I absolutely love that about the new regulations, because in 2021, you used to have to have such a huge advantage to pass someone that, I think they said, you need to be like 2-3 seconds like quicker because of how bad the dirty air was, that once a driver does get past, they've probably 99% of the time pull away, because the reason they've got past is because they're a lot quicker, the other person's tires are destroyed, or it's just generally, like a faster car. Now, the way they can follow so closely that if you pass another car, you can genuinely just have a better lap than someone. And you don't have to have a massive pace advantage. You can have a better lap than someone, get within the DRS, overtake them. And then that car hasn't been overtaken necessarily because they're absolutely miles slower. It's just because of like DRS and that you can follow closer. So then the other car comes back. And, we saw that not just with Leclerc and Verstappen, but with the Alpines as well.
And K-Mag and Hamilton.
And K-Mag and Hamilton did the same. It's just so refreshing.
Return of the Mag. I should probably show the t-shirt now. Return of the Mag.
Every time we mention Magnussen.
Yeah.
You can find us on the WTF1 store, as well as other Ferrari Hype Train new products. Please carry on, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm just loving it. I just think that is something that I really like about these new regulations, is the fact that once a fight is over, it's not over when the other person
you thought
overtakes.
It was over.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts, Tommy. I think the tyres as well allow for this to happen, where they're not so concerned about the overheating maybe so slightly, because of course that was another thing, was not just the fact that it was dirty air, but the car would start sliding, and they'd have to get out of the immediate dirty air from the car ahead, because the car would start overheating. I think, to be fair, it was it was Alonso. I remember it had on his car actually come up during the race about cool the car. It made me think of that. But generally, it seems as though the cars can follow, and that's brilliant. It's not like they're all toe to toe, and but it's close enough that it's definitely a step forward, and that's what we want to see. Battles lasting longer, and as you say, Tommy, just having a better lap, being able to get in that DRS, passing because DRS is still reasonably strong, but then not being able to clear off, and having these battles continue on, and genuinely feeling like, okay, next lap he'll get him back. And I don't think we've had that for a very long time. Which is what we want to see.
It very much is. I'm enjoying it greatly. But to mention tyres there, Matt, listening to Verstappen yesterday speak after the race, he's being a bit of a negative Nancy about tyres. He has said that there is better racing, but it also depends on the tyre because some compounds just fall apart. He said the weight of the cars pushes you over the tyre edge. Something needs to be looked at. Following and racing is easier, but it's not going to be any good if the tyres die. We could have raced more in stint 1 without that. So yeah, will be interesting to see what Pirelli have to come back with that, because obviously these are brand new compounds of tyres. The tyres themselves are bigger, from 13-inch to 18-inch this year. So will be good to see if Pirelli can do anything. But I mean, they're not exactly just going to be able to like whip out a brand new spec of tyre, because they've spent all of this time preparing these for 2022. But it's something to think about and could be a consistent bit of feedback from drivers throughout the year.
That is a really interesting point. That I wonder if this season could be the one that changes our mind about tyres, because I wonder how much of the fact that they were on a hard tyre at the end, where they could both push, meant that battle was so good. Because normally, we never see that in Formula One before, where someone takes the lead, and it genuinely felt like Leclerc could have got him back. Like there was always that hope and excitement, and that's what made the race so good. Every Hamilton and Verstappen battle last year, for a lot of the time, once the person had got ahead, it was like, that's it, it's done. And it was exciting because it's at the end of the race, but that was it. And then you're like, okay, that's really cool that Hamilton's passed Verstappen or Verstappen's passed Hamilton, but there's 3 laps to go and it's game over. Whereas this, it was like, oh wow, Leclerc's really close here. Like he can get him back again. And that's what made it so good. And it's almost changed my opinion completely on like the tires, that maybe they're right saying, I guess the problem is you get that lull and it's only a 1 stop, and there was a little bit of lull in the middle of the race. But if we get that kind of racing, because they can just push and they don't have to worry about tires and they can fight and refight, then maybe, they don't need to rely on tires so much these days for great racing.
Yeah, there's always going to be an element of compromise, isn't there? If you have one thing, then you can't have the other. And it seems as though the softer steps of tires maybe is where Max is complaining about, but the harder tire definitely worked. And you saw that. And to be fair, Max has his opinion, but then you look at the Alpines, would they have been able to battle for that long, or been told to battle for that long, if the medium tires were really that bad? So I'm sure there are lots of comments that come out about tyres, and sometimes the drivers disagree. Next question, Julog90. Compared to 2021, did the 2022 cars deliver better battles between the teams in this race? Yes. I think we've kind of summed that up with what we've just spoken about, to be honest. The Alpines in particular taking all the airtime at the start of the race. But yeah, I think that is a unanimous yes from us. Anything to add on that one, guys, or no?
I guess there was one little moment actually where I remember thinking this during the race. I think it was maybe 2 McLarens, maybe both Astons. They all came around the final corner, and you're like, there's absolutely no way that would be possible last year. That they were literally nose to tail.
Or having them at the back, or just battling?
Both. But yeah, the fact that they were nose to tail round a corner, and I think Verstappen alluded to that, didn't he, in his post-race interview, that you kind of have to think about racing completely different because you can follow. And it just is changed. It's literally changed the way you race.
And that's what we want.
Well
done, F1. We've done it.
Everyone's tweeting at the
moment. Team WTF1 member Fud Dud asks, the racing between teammates Alonso and Ocon made great television, but they lost a lot of time to Russell ahead of them and allowed Bottas to stick around, eventually passing Ocon by the end of it. Did Otmar make the right call in letting them race, or do team orders need to be given to prevent both drivers from falling back? Now, there's 2 ways you can look at this, really. One, you're an Alpine fan, and the other is that you enjoy watching racing. I think we all enjoyed the fact Alonso and Ocon went toe-to-toe, and maybe not so much enjoyed Ocon going very late to the inside at one point and nearly having a plane crash with Alonso. I'm really glad that Fernando had some serious reactions with that as a 40-year-old man. Well done, Fernando.
Glad you mentioned it, because I was going to say not bad for an old man, and then I was like, oh no, I'm just going to get bullied for saying I hate Alonso.
He is literally 40, so well done. Well done, Fernando.
For most of us.
But yeah, then obviously we had Otmar allowing them to race, being interviewed during the race actually with Sky, which was quite interesting. I don't think he made the right call as a team principal. That there was enough battling to be like, okay, all right, you've had a couple of laps, guys. You can stop now, because these midfield teams, especially Alpine turning up to Saudi, having a better car than what they had in Bahrain, there was great opportunity to maybe not stick with Russell, but at least fully confirm that they will finish 6th and 7th. But instead, they battled incredibly hard and did allow Bottas to get onto the back of them. K-Mag as well rocked up like, hey guys, how you doing? He was on the hard tyres, I think, as well. So from a team principal side of things, no, he did not, in my opinion, do the right thing in terms of their drivers. If they have to jostle it around for a couple of laps to determine who wins the race in that battle, fair enough. But on the fan side, carry on. Oh, love it. Brilliant. So it depends which way you look at it. From a fan's point of view, I loved watching them battle. It was great to see it, but they did definitely hinder both of their races.
I'll add a third side into that, which is you're the CEO of BWT and you're absolutely loving the fact that they did not show the leaders once in about 10 laps, because it was just all the bright pink Alpines, which of course they've done for that sponsor as a celebratory thing. And I bet they were absolutely, they said, absolutely buzzing. Yeah, it was such a great battle. And this is always the thing. And I think it goes back to the original point of, it's not like one car was necessarily faster, like normally where you can, you hear drivers, in 2021, that's like, I could go a second faster, let me through, and they let them through. And then they are genuinely quicker and they shoot up the road and it's fine. With the DRS, they're just going to swap. So that's going to be a really interesting dynamic this year of if that starts happening between teammates and they are just genuinely as quick as each other. What are the team principals going to do? Because one driver isn't necessarily faster than the other. It's just, they are just occupying the same bit of racetrack.
I wonder if Otmar is just letting them sort of find their feet. And obviously if they did come together, which fortunately they didn't. And I'm very glad, because my heart rate, I don't think would have been able to take it if they had come together. Maybe Otmar's just letting them, feed it out, get an understanding of maybe where each other stand rather than butting in so early. But yeah, it was a risky thing. And like this person, Fud Dud, makes a point of it, it allowed quite a lot of the grid to catch up to them. But yeah, I don't think when Fernando Alonso said to tell Esteban to defend like a lion last year, he meant it when it was him behind him. But yeah, it was a great battle, great exposure for BWT. And now that pink Alpine livery is done, it's retiring, it's gone, which I'm actually really sad about, because it's grown on me a lot. So yeah, lost the team a lot of time though, you can't deny that.
No, you can't. Team WTF1 member Fraser Hutchinson comes in with, we haven't seen anyone surge through the field yet. Do you think although cars can follow, doesn't mean the overtaking is as easy? We have seen two drivers swap back and forth, but not a singular driver overtake and drive through lots of people. Just a thought. What are your opinions on how the new cars race? I mean, I don't think we've seen a really fast car like we haven't seen a Red Bull or a Ferrari at the back of the field having to come through. Of course, we had Hamilton out in Q1, but he was legitimately in a car that didn't work. And it did look a bit better in the race, don't get me wrong, but he still finished 10th, which he questioned whether he got a point for that or not. So I don't think you can really measure having a fast car come through the field. I imagine, Fraser, you're thinking of Brazil, where Hamilton started at the back and came through. But at that point, Mercedes had an unbelievable car and a very quick engine. I think we will still see that kind of thing if we do have a fast car starting at the back. And if anything, it might be a little bit easier from what we've seen. So I think it's very difficult to really be able to measure that one until we have someone starting at the back.
We're going to have to pick a Red Bull or a Ferrari driver to take one for the team here for Fraser. have a DRS infringement in quali, get disqualified, start from the back, do a Hamilton in Brazil, so we can get an answer.
Yeah, Max Verstappen volunteers as tribute. I've just heard comments. So
it's fine. I'm making a graphic as we speak about Leclerc penalty.
for context, Tommy made a graphic just at but whilst Leclerc was leading with a few laps to go, made a graphic about Leclerc's perfect start, full well knowing that
ready
kind
to
of
post
thing
on WTF1.
Is underhand and disgusting tactics to try and get some sort of outer interference.
Power,
yeah.
And it worked. Well done, mate. Yeah, hope you feel very happy about it.
Enjoy the money.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
Enjoy the
Very
money,
much.
James.
Giving off those vibes. But yeah, it's early days. And also, I wasn't expecting anybody to have a crazy comeback in Jeddah anyway. It's not really a circuit that I would think could maybe allow for something like that. I listened to Yuki Tsunoda after the race yesterday. Obviously, he didn't even make it on the grid, but he would have started from P19 and he thought he could fight up and get into points. But obviously we didn't get to see that. But let's see in Australia. That's next. Track has been improved to aid with overtaking. So it could be a good place to get an understanding of Fraser's Point.
Yeah, I mean, Sainz, according to the graphic, started in the pit lane. So, which is a very odd one. I think that probably, I didn't actually notice that. You noticed that in our chat, Matt, but I imagine that made a lot of Ferrari fans' hearts drop when they saw that because it wasn't mentioned.
Wait,
it was like,
he's
surely
on
the commentators
grid.
would have mentioned this if he was starting in the pits.
Yeah, it was the grid graphic, everybody, for those that didn't see it.
But yeah, until he...
You're right, Tommy.
I just pinged my phone accidentally.
That's one of those find my iPhone things.
Yeah, with my hand in my pocket. Done. Yes. What was I saying? Yes. For Red Bull, it all just relies on. I guess the one downside to the new rules is that Red Bull.
I thought I'd do it for banter.
Was you that time?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh.
I thought that they would speak to each other.
I genuinely looked and thought
the iPhones are chatting to each other.
Yeah.
The performance gap. I mean, Red Bull and Ferrari are genuinely miles ahead, even of Mercedes. So when we see one of those cars start at the back, like you say, that's when we'll see them.
Measure it, yeah, definitely. Right, Katie, your 3-word race review, please.
Well, mine is a bit more of a somber 3-word race review. Mine is Checo, so unlucky. And that is obviously about Checo pole, which, oh my goodness, I could be happy about this bit because he's finally got a pole position. Amazing. Took him 11 years, but he's done it. And I'm really proud of him. And I think so many people in the F1 community were absolutely buzzing for him. Obviously, qualifying's, fair to say, it's not previously been a strong point. But then we got to the race and he had a really good start and he managed to get a 2.5 second lead to Leclerc by lap 7. And I was like, come on, boy, here we go. And then it got down to 1.6 seconds when he decided to box because the Ferrari garage were also ready to box and it was going to be Perez, Leclerc, who's going to come up fast. Perez went into the pits, Leclerc stayed out, and then Nicholas Latifi hit a wall and it ruined Checo's race and I'm still not over it and I'm really upset. But I'm I really hope that could have been a victory. I'm going to support my boy Checo here and say he would have won the race if it hadn't have been for that. But obviously there were other parts to it as well. The whole safety car line, who got there first, who should give the position back. Perez eventually gave it back to Carlos and sort of surrendered it, which I think he's done more because of the new race director's instructions to sort of say, I'll let you guys figure it out on your own. And then if nothing happens, then we'll investigate it. But yeah, I'm in mourning of a Checo victory today. So.
Well, thank you for that, Katie. I think we'll have to change the overlay of your graphic to David Croft because there was some serious commentary going on there. Really enjoyed that. But yeah, it was heartbreaking for Checo. Genuinely, he'd done everything right. I could not, there was nothing that I could say that he could have done better. He got pole position. He had a great start. He managed from the front. Whether or not he would have actually won the race, we don't know because we saw how quickly it looked like Leclerc was going to win, and then as soon as Max got in the DRS, everything changed. But that point in the race was definitely crucial because, as you say, it was 1.6. Leclerc was definitely on a push to come in. And how unlucky do you need to get to pit and then the literal within that lap, Latifi bins it and changes the complexion of the whole race. And Sergio couldn't do anything from there because they were all very similarly paced. I think Carlos Sainz was maybe lacking a little bit and fell away at one point, but in general, the top four were very similar. So Sergio being at the back of that queue meant that, or third in that queue, wasn't it, at the time, because Sainz was complaining. But then Sergio let him through. So back of the queue, there was really no hope for him at that point unless something crazy happened. So yeah, I am inclined to say that he would have won that race as well if nothing crazy had happened. And I know, I'm sorry
about it. It's
Katie.
fine.
And it as much as it's a really painful result for him finishing fourth, it's actually a massive confidence booster that he can do it around a track that requires so much dedication and commitment. This is a track with 27 corners and walls everywhere. And the fact he was able to get pole, stick one to Max in a lot of ways, and could have easily been ahead of Max in the championship. Then what happens? Is he the number one driver at that point? Probably not. But it's huge confidence booster for Sergio, and I have high hopes for him now for the rest of the year to hopefully get in the mix and see what he can do and pick up a few victories potentially.
Yeah, it's a big shame because he was going to win that race on, merit, and he was controlling the pace well. We saw that he was ahead. It would have been very interesting, like I kind of mentioned earlier, to see how Leclerc would have played it. Would he have sort of settled for P2? Maybe in his eyes, maybe he was thinking, is Perez really my title rival? Do I sort of back off a little bit early, but then and just sort of settle for P2 and think of like the points game, or would we have seen him try and battle it? But I do think Perez, you reckon? But I do think Perez would have won. And like you say, it's just so unlucky. But I guess you've got to look at the positives, and that's that he outqualified Max Verstappen on a really difficult circuit, and would have beaten him. And then it would have been a fascinating narrative to see what would have happened after, if we were sat here on this podcast now with Checo winning and being ahead of Max in the title. All the questions would be very different. But I've got an interesting, slightly amusing thing for you, Matt. I know Katie already knows this.
Okay.
If you don't, I'm not sure if you know this already, but who was the last F1 driver to convert their maiden pole into a win? Because obviously Perez didn't do that.
Michael Schumacher.
No. It was Pastor Maldonado.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I think that's crazy that, we've had Charles getting pole, Max getting pole, Danny Rick getting pole since then, all these drivers, and the last person to take their, Bottas getting pole. Yeah, last driver to do it. Still,
I was trying to think.
Pastor.
I was like, why have you asked me? Is it because it's Michael Schumacher? No, fair. Pastor Maldonado, the GOAT.
Yeah, crazy.
What a hero. There is a question from KTH Disdainy 25. Could Perez actually have gotten P1 if he didn't pit before the unfortunate safety car, which we've already covered? Or was it the right decision on Red Bull's part? Now, that part I don't really think needs to come into question. Of course, Red Bull would not have known that Latifi was going to lose control and smash it into the wall. And they had to cover off Ferrari, in my opinion. So they did do the right thing to cover him off. What Ferrari would have then done, was it an actual bluff? Didn't seem to be, because Leclerc genuinely closed in quite significantly on that lap. So I think the Ferrari were definitely going to pit that lap. So they made the right decision, and there wasn't much more they could do. The rest was just the universe.
As Lance Stroll says, sometimes you love the sport and it doesn't love you back, or something along those lines. I don't know. But yeah, ouch. It's the way the cookie crumbles.
One thing that I've not seen, and excuse me if I'm just chatting absolute nonsense and made this up. This is a great way to start the sentence. Did Ferrari play an absolute blinder by dummying Perez, making him pit, and then knowing he'd go right behind George Russell in the traffic and wouldn't be able to undercut Leclerc? I've not seen anyone mention that, but was Perez going to be able to put a really good lap in when he was stuck behind Russell? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So
It's
I wonder if had that played out without the Latifi crash, whether Leclerc might have got ahead anyway and done an overcut. You never know.
Yeah, it's a very good point. it does seem as though you could look at it that way, that Ferrari saw on the live driver tracker that it would be very marginal for Perez with George Russell, and perhaps they all I'm speaking for Ferrari here, but that is a gamble that could have potentially worked. So obviously, I don't know how quickly Perez would have actually got past Russell and whether he actually would have kept the lead. That's a very good point, Tommy. I completely forgot that even happened.
Yeah,
because George Russell
didn't have a chance, so he'd have lost a fair bit of time in the first sector, and then knowing Red Bull's pace, he probably would have got him in DRS, but still would have been lost time. Lap, yeah,
it's a very good point. So thank you for that, Tommy. Yeah,
big brain time.
big brain stuff. Love it.
I'm sure Ferrari will claim it now and be like, yes. Strategy. Ferrari
definitely listen to our podcast. Lampy Eastwood comes in with a question. It seemed like Ferrari did a pit stop. Okay, we've just covered this. It seemed like Ferrari did a pit stop dummy when Perez stopped. These are not allowed, right? Well, actually, no, that they are allowed to change their minds, aren't they? And there are
Mercedes did it about very 8 million times last year.
There's big grey areas as to what you can and can't do within the pit stop realms. But yeah, Mercedes have done it many, many times. And I think they are allowed to change because I'm sure Ferrari will argue, well, we wanted to do the opposite to Red Bull, and Red Bull came out, and so we didn't bring them in. So it just seems as though this whole you're not allowed to do a pit stop dummy thing just doesn't really exist, even if it is somewhere in writing in the rule book.
No, very much. Ferrari said that they were ready to pit Leclerc, and then Leclerc just said, they basically went for the opposite to Checo in front. And he said, I think we did the right choice. I think you did, mate, because Perez's race was ruined and I'm still not over it. And I'm going to be sour for the rest of the time.
At the start of this podcast, it's like, oh, Casey, the neutral. And now it's like, oh my God, Perez.
It's fine. I'll get over it. I've got time to, soak it in.
I'm also mourning a win that I thought was we're both mourning right now, which is something where Tommy's just like,
gloating like,
Shall I put the cape on? Will that make you feel better?
It really will. It's the problem with Tommy is that he'll sit there and just bask in it, but not really say much, or doesn't really.
This is very much Jeremy Clarkson. This is my smug face. Yeah.
It does. I'd rather you rubbed it in my face. Anyway, next question. Draconic_Dusk. Max, Charles, Carlos, and Kevin all set their fastest laps during the last 3 laps of the race, whilst Alex was stopped in sector 1. Will they get penalised for this? Well, no. The investigation is over, as far as I'm aware, and no further action. Because, of course, it's in one particular area of the track. As long as they visibly show that they have slowed in that part, then it's not a problem. So clearly there is something on the telemetry. And I'm imagining, how you have the line of 100% throttle. I reckon it just goes beep, and that's it. But as long as they visibly show that they let off the steam a little bit.
I think that's exactly what happened. I think they played one of them on the Skypad, and it was like off the throttle,
which is crazy. That is not slowing down for a double waved yellow, wasn't it, at that point? So of course, they had the DRS. Well, to be fair, Max, last 3 laps Max wouldn't have had DRS, but Leclerc did. So I guess on the Ferrari side, you could argue, well, we've had 3 DRS zones, and it's a very odd rule that they've clearly done it by the letter of the law and gone, well, okay, I have to slow down at the incident. Could I have actually slowed down and stopped, which is what a double yellow flag is supposed to, do, is that, there's a danger on the track, be prepared to slow down and potentially stop. There is no way in hell any of those drivers could have slowed down and stopped if Alex Albon was in the middle of the track. And of course, Max came over the team radio, was complaining that Leclerc had closed in, which he did. I think he closed in by a couple of tenths compared to what Max did. But I think just generally everybody broke the rules. And so then they just didn't enforce anything by the looks of things.
Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me. They've done it in junior series where they have penalised almost the entire field and just gone, well, that's the way to do it then, because it kind of sends a message, even if it does look a bit ridiculous. Even when you can go quicker with DRS in the final sectors, there's something a little bit, I don't know. It doesn't sit quite right that you can set a fastest lap when there's a yellow flag out. Especially, everyone talking about the nature of the circuit as well, with blind corners and things like that. It's I'm surprised there wasn't more done about it. They seem very, very relaxed, the stewards, so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and have Charles slander at all, one, because Matt will just kick me off the call. But yeah, I'm a bit perplexed as to how Leclerc managed to get the fastest lap of the race on a lap where there were single waved yellows or maybe even double waved yellow flags. Like that's
a point as well.
It doesn't make sense. Exactly. So I don't know. The FIA said after the Grand Prix that lap 49 and 50 were under investigation. Who even knew you could get a lap under investigation? It's a pity they didn't do that for Abu Dhabi, but anyway, another point. But yeah, they said afterwards the stewards investigated whether each driver, so I assume that they've looked at the telemetry and details for every single driver on the grid that was still going, to see if they had slowed down for the single yellow wave flag in lap 49 and a double yellow flag in lap 50. And after reviewing the data, they determined that no further investigation or action was required. So yeah, whether that was a case of everyone did their job and they all, lifted off and well done, guys, great job, or whether they were like, oh, bloody hell, it's 1 a.m, I don't want to be doing this. Just put the final classification out. I don't know.
They sound like?
I don't know. They sounded like
I love that steward voice. I want to hear that
we've
more
got
on the
F1
podcast.
Twitter voice, and now I've got steward voice.
Steward voice.
A bloke down the pub.
I want to hear that more on the podcast. I'm sure everyone will.
I'll bring it out on special occasions.
Get a voice for every single different role in Formula One.
That's going to be the new Katie's FIA rant. It'll be, Katie, do the FIA voice.
No.
Love it.
But yeah, it's weird.
It's very weird, and it does seem as though they've just kind of overlooked it because so many people, so many drivers.
It literally happened in Austria.
Yeah.
Last year. It's either Austria or Syria. And there were so many drivers that were investigated. And it was only the ones right at the back. I think it was Latifi and maybe Mazepin that were penalised. And everyone else who I think did a better did worse jobs at lifting off didn't get a penalty.
Yeah, I think that clearly it's not clear cut enough as to what is seen as sufficiently slowing down. So, they have loads of mini sectors. They have 3 big sectors, but they also have mini sectors, which is between each marshal post. What they just need to apply, just like they do with the VSC, have to slow down by 40% or whatever it is, have it so that you have to be 20% slower than the fastest lap of the race, or I don't know, or something that's actually tangible rather than, the telemetry. Yep, no, he definitely slowed down by 2 miles an hour compared to his other laps. Because that...
People can get away with it as well, can't they? When they look at the mini sector and go, yeah, he was 0.00. Like, it almost feels like if you're 0.001 slower than you were before, it's fine because you've slowed down. But it's like, not really. You might have just had a... That's
not for a double waved yellow, is it?
Yeah. I am so proud of you two boys having your own little FIA rants.
Look, you've rubbed off on us.
You've grown up so much.
But it doesn't seem like they're going to do anything about it. So this is all falling on deaf ears, unfortunately. Next question, another thing about the stewards. At Shahar Eshet, why is Leclerc crossing the pit lane line being overlooked?
Great question.
I don't know.
No.
I have no idea.
I saw this question was in the podcast sheet, so I did some investigation and looked into the sporting code. And in Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 4D, it states... It states, except in cases of force majeure, which is basically exceptional circumstances, accepted as such by the stewards, any tyre of a car entering the pit lane must not cross in any direction any line painted on the track at pit entry for the purpose of separating cars entering the pit lane from those on the track.
But did that say any, not all?
Don't start this. No. But it's just, I don't understand it because Tommy sent me the picture of Leclerc with this.
Yeah, do you want to see the picture? Do you want to see the picture?
Yeah.
You've seen it.
I've seen it.
It's not.
It's not blatantly over it.
Like a millimeter over. And as people were quick to point out, Yuki Tsunoda in Austria last year received 2 penalties for doing it twice during the Grand Prix. And people online are like, oh, Max is just such a whinge bag. He's moaning about this. He's moaning about the fact his light's not working at the back and all this kind of stuff, which I can see. But don't forget the TV direction are maybe only playing specific clips. We're not hearing the full story here. But I think, the drivers are in much of a right to complain about something like that, where they think, well, the rules are clearly not being followed here, than they are to mention other things on team radio.
Huge. Yeah. Huge shock as adrenaline-filled driver wanting to win the World Championship tries to complain about other teams breaking the rules.
Potentially breaking the rules.
You'd appreciate this, Tommy, as a Max fan. But everybody that says that Max is crying during a race, jog on. Like, he's literally following a car. He knows the rules. He's seen something. Anybody in that position, anybody would have questioned Charles Leclerc going over the line in the pit lane entry. They would have, because that is literally the rules that he's not allowed to cross the line. So, of course, he's going to go on the team radio to speak to his team. He's not pressing that team radio button to speak to the worldwide audience. Yeah. Hello, audience. I would just like to complain about what Charles Leclerc's doing. He's not talking to you. He's talking to his team.
They'll be doing it in P15, 16, but it's not played because it doesn't matter. But it matches the narrative of the race for Formula One broadcasters, because it's part of the drama. And like you say, he's going to mention it because, well, as Katie said, it is in the rules.
And, sorry, I'm getting passionate. He also is going to question. He's also going to question the lights not flashing on the back of Charles Leclerc's car, because that's there for safety. The flashing red lights on the back shows when that Ferrari is harvesting energy and therefore is not going to be as quick. I'm sure Max is also questioning, hey, is that legal? Should he be on the track? Of course he's going to.
Yeah.
Every F1 team is out for an advantage, no matter who you are.
It's a competition.
So anyone saying about Max crying,
we've said this so many times, because people said it about Hamilton as well. Always crying on the radio. It's like, if you mic'd up professional footballers playing a game, it would be unbroadcastable.
I was going to say, that's a bad idea.
It's like, of course you're going to, the drivers are all biased. The drivers all want an advantage. The drivers will all do anything they can to get an advantage. And we see it from everyone. So, and one thing I'll add while we're on this conversation is, please, can people stop believing everything they see in quotes on Twitter, even from parody accounts? Because there was one doing the rounds of a parody account clearly joking about Verstappen. It's just obviously a joke, but it was Verstappen saying they'd quoted it and said Verstappen's team radio at the end of the race was, "Great battle with Leclerc. This shows it was Hamilton was the problem all along," which is so obviously a joke and not true. And like, Verstappen didn't say that, but people on Twitter just seem to believe anything they see in quotes,
face value,
and it's not true. So I mean, just come on. Just enjoy the battle and enjoy Formula One.
Another thing of people believing what they see on Twitter and stuff is like Gunther Steiner. I saw had an interview with Chris Medland. I don't know if you've heard this clip or not, where he said that well, it's going around where apparently he would have effed the whole paddock for 2 points when he quite clearly said hugged, and yet everyone.
Oh, I heard it and I thought
listen back and actually say the words that he said, but put hugged in there. You can see how the words combine. And there's no way in hell.
He's got quite a strong accent, hasn't he?
But then if you actually, I would have hugged. Like, you can see how the way that can combine. But everyone's like, oh, he would. And
it reminds me of Nick Hyde. This is a throwback. Nick Heidfeld ages ago.
Imagine,
he's got a bit of Nick Heidfeld's got a bit of a lisp, and he said the word rankings on the grid, and you can imagine what it sounded like. That just reminded me of that.
Yeah. So again, another thing, don't take what people say as quotes and let's literally go and verify it. Anyway, moving on.
Come to
TV
us.
Direction. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, Katie, but TV Direction. Let's talk about that. There is actually a video coming out probably the same day as this podcast, so it may well be live. So go and check it out. If not, it'll be later on. At Bird Flu Nuggets comes in with. Comes in with the question: if you watch the F1 TV replay of the race, can you agree that we do not need to see replays 50% of the coverage time during the final few laps? I usually do not complain about this, but it was well in excess. Okay, so I went in.
It's rant time.
Yeah,
I'm going to just sit back and enjoy this.
This is like Katie with her rule book. I think it's now me and Tommy about to. Well, I'm not going to go in too much because there is a video coming out on it, but it was really bad, to be honest with you, because live action, live sport. The only reason we tune in at 2 p.m. or whatever time it is where you are to watch a race is to watch it live. And when Verstappen and Leclerc are going wheel to wheel, Verstappen's just got past Leclerc. It's not over. Just because Verstappen's through on turn 1 does not mean it is done. I do not need to see 5 fans wearing blooming Max capes or whatever they were wearing. And it's not just because Leclerc.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they're wearing Leclerc.
Even I don't need to see that, just to cover you there.
Firstly, their reaction was not what I wanted to see anyway. It wasn't even that good. We do not need to see that. You can show me that at the end of the race or when it's calmed down, when they were out of a second of DRS. It is the final few laps. I need to see everything of this fight for the lead. Absolutely everything. I do not need to see a replay of what has just happened 10 seconds ago. I do not have memory loss. I do not need to see that. Okay.
You're not a goldfish.
Exactly. So please prioritize the fight for the lead, the live coverage, what we pay. Sky Sports F1, and Tommy, you put this in your open letter. Sky Sports F1 in their advert put it's only live once, or whatever their tagline is.
Yeah.
Then don't show me a replay. That's not live. Okay, I've popped off. All right, I'm sorry.
Just for the avoidance of doubt, because I did see a few. I did that rant on the website that as well, and just for avoidance of any doubt, it's not Sky that control that, or Channel 4 or whatever. Blah blah blah. That is Formula One in control of that, and I totally sympathise that covering a Formula One race is extremely difficult, and I have no problem with the fact that, say, Alonso on a random lap, it's really unexpected and he makes a dive bomb on Ocon and they missed it. It's hard to complain because they can't cover everything. And, we might have not known the move was happening and there's a bit of a lull in the race, so you show it. There is nothing more important than that Leclerc and Verstappen battle. And we can see, and we've seen it literally in the last race in Bahrain, that they are passing and repassing each other every corner in the DRS and stuff. I don't need to see a replay of it again. And also the transition of the F1 logo, that just feels like about 4 years when you're not getting to watch the action live. That lingers on so long, and they'll show a replay and it's let's see a replay from another angle and another angle. It's like no. they've got it reminds me of it's like the person doing it is doing it as if it's football, and in football you score a goal and the game stops. Right, it's over. They can show replays of the goal. They would not be showing someone does a tackle and it's literally the equivalent of this, someone does a tackle, the ball's still in play and they replay the tackle while the ball's still in play. No, they wouldn't do that, would they? It's so ridiculous. And honestly, it drove me around the bend during that,
and
final lap.
I'm not done, Tommy. I'm going to carry on for a second. Another thing is that quite clearly F1 TV, the app that isn't available in the UK and whatever, but they clearly show that double or triple boxes work very well.
Yeah.
What if you want to show some Verstappen fans losing their minds? Stick it in another box.
Mini box on the timing tower or something.
But don't take away from the live action. I don't know whether it's because there is an agreement that F1 TV are the only people that are allowed to do it, or only subscription services where you press the red button and that's where you can have multiple screens. Who knows? I don't know the fine print. But what I do know is the main feed sometimes needs a double box. That is without question.
Just to cover something as well. Sorry, I know I'm on a massive rant. But
no,
don't apologize. Just to cover something as well, I know that it's very, 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 very unlikely that Verstappen and Leclerc can pass each other in that sector 1. But the excitement is watching it. Just because then you want to see how close they are. That's part of the excitement. And I know that there's probably not going to be a move there, but don't use that just because there's not going to be a move there as let's put all the replays in now and show it again. It's like they're so used to old Formula One and there not being much action, and they're really caught off guard by it. And they're they need to pad the coverage out with replays to make it interesting and stuff. But it's not needed anymore. Formula One have spent so long doing these rules to make the racing better. So don't ruin it with the TV coverage by not showing the racing. Like, you can't have a whole regulation change to make racing good and then go, actually, you know what? We should focus on like 5 Verstappen fans in the crowd celebrating instead. Like, no.
There's really not much for me to add here, guys, because you guys have gone off and I love it. I only have a few other things to mention. So yeah, I don't know who at the top of Formula One has said that we need to get more crowd shots, but it's doing my head in. As much as I love the crowd and seeing them there, and, you know, they're just like us at a race and it's relatable and all that kind of stuff, stop showing them at the blimmin' important moments. Like whether it was Abu Dhabi on the final lap, and it gets replayed all the time because they're always showing Abu Dhabi, but like when it was the start of the final lap in Abu Dhabi, they went back to a shot and it was just all the crowd and you couldn't see the blimmin' cars on the track. And I was like, why have they done this? And then, showing them yesterday at like the most important time, I think everybody watching it must have probably shouted at their TV in perfect sequence to be like, what the hell are you doing? Or synchrony, sorry. So yeah, crowds cams can go away. I feel like the next thing F1's going to do is start introducing kiss cams at like the most important moments of the race. Like, it's just got so stupid. Secondly, I really like the helmet cams, but can we not have that camera during the really important moments, because it's impossible to see? Max Verstappen is just a blurry mess on Charles Leclerc's helmet cam. So it's great in some moments, but it just didn't work there, guys. So just, put that one in the bin.
They've seen how popular that is, haven't they, on social after the Bahrain fight, and gone, let's do this.
Yeah. They're going to have the start of the race soon with helmet cam, aren't they? Like, here we go. His 14th with a helmet cam. Here we go. Here's his nose. Lovely.
Yeah, since you mentioned you can see the driver's nose as well. That's all I'm like focusing on them. Like, and also, talking of the starts, we didn't, I think, see it as badly here, but previously, somebody needs to have a word with TV direction about how they cover the race starts, because it will literally be like, here's a replay of a start you saw 30 seconds ago while we're still on lap 1 with all the drama unfolding and moves trying to be made. Like, we can have a replay of the start later on when things calm down a bit. We don't need a replay of what we've just seen 30 seconds ago while stuff is still going on. But anyway, TV direction was very disappointing this weekend. Tommy's rant that he had hit the nail on the head, and I'm looking forward to seeing your video tomorrow, Matt. But can we get some fresh...
Good race there, wasn't it?
Great race.
Sorry, I feel like this was the negative part of the podcast.
No, it was energy. It was big energy. I don't think it was negativity. We're standing up for Formula One fans. And I think a lot of F1 fans were also of similar kind of opinions to what we said. So I don't think this is an unfair thing. And I think just one more thing, there isn't going to be just one more thing. I don't know why I'm holding a pen. I'm just like, one more thing.
You're writing an angry letter as we speak to F1.
You literally did an open letter to F1.
I did.
But you mentioned, there's not going to be an overtake in sector 1. Okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But the interesting thing is, okay, will Leclerc be able to hold on to that 1 second, or just under 1 second? He's faster in that first sector. Can he close in? Those kind of gaps that we don't then see because the overlay's gone because we're watching a replay. All of that's missed. And the problem, I think, and why it's so frustrating is because it's such small things that have such big consequences for the overall enjoyment of watching that battle unfold. And there are such simple solutions from what we can see.
Yeah,
and
we're not asking them to predict the future and, Max is 4 seconds behind and suddenly he's somehow miraculously dive bombed and taken the lead and they've missed it because they didn't expect it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Saw it happening. There's nothing more important than a battle for the lead. It's the final laps of the race. The 2 leaders going, I don't care if what's happening. I don't care about the crowd. I don't care about Hamilton pitting. I don't care about replays of it. Just show the damn thing.
I love how people have probably tuned to this podcast like, oh, Matt and Tommy, they're going to be at locked horns over Verstappen versus Leclerc, and all we're doing is being on exactly the same page about F1 TV direction. Love it. Right, moving swiftly on. Let's talk about Nicholas Latifi. At Adam Angus 15, considering his recent run of form, do you think the Williams team begins to start asking questions about Nicholas Latifi? And do you think they will do anything about it? Yes, and maybe. His start to this season has been dreadful. I don't think you can really beat around the bush for that. Last year, he wasn't exactly excitingly good. He got better towards the end of last season, but maybe that was George Russell tailing off a little bit, thinking about his move to Mercedes. But it's been a really poor start for Nicholas Latifi. He's crashed too many times for the era of the cost cap, and maybe he's pushing too hard because Alex Albon's joined and he knows that he has to do pretty well against Alex in order to maybe stay in Formula One. But he's pushing too hard and it's not good enough. He's going to have to firstly stop crashing and secondly get on to Alex Albon's pace. Then maybe he gets to stay in Formula One. But until then, we can probably start to question his career very soon.
It's not ideal to have crashing quali and then all the team, work it's really hard to get the car back in one piece for the race. And then it takes 16 laps and then crashes again. But yeah, that's definitely a very costly weekend for Latifi. I will also add that Alex wasn't exactly perfect this weekend. He might not have necessarily, obviously he was in the crash with Stroll, had such a devastating crash, caused a lot of damage financially to the car, but he picked up a reprimand for impeding. He also picked up a penalty.
Oh, don't get me started on that. We'll have another rant in a minute.
Yeah, but he's picked up a penalty for the next race for his incident with Stroll. So yeah, both the Williams drivers not having a great weekend for quite different reasons. But yeah, Latifi, it's not been great. Take a break, have some Nutella, and that's my advice.
Nutella just always
patronizing.
Take a break, have some Nutella, and come back.
See you in Oz.
Have a Nutella Kit Kat. Do
they exist?
I was going to say.
Just because you said have a break.
Trademark.
Oh, I see.
That went over everyone's head. The Latifi thing, I mean, Williams said that, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Williams did say when they got taken over that they don't necessarily need pay drivers anymore. And obviously Latifi did all right. He looked like he was improving, but he's had an absolutely miserable start to the season. And, it's not worth it if he's going to be crashing the car on a regular basis and can't get in any kind of performances or points for them. So, it'd be interesting to see how that goes, because obviously Latifi does bring the majority of their 3 sponsors on the car. But it's not great for him.
No, not at all. You can have all the sponsors in the world, but if you keep crashing, I'm sure there will be Williams in particular just looking at, are there other revenue streams that we can get from another driver?
It's frustrating. He has got potential. We've seen it a few moments, like last year especially. There is something there, but he just needs to iron out all these mistakes.
He's got potential if Bottas wipes half the field out. And
it's a good point. I was going to say, he doesn't really have the pace, does he? When we look at the comparison between himself and George Russell, and already we can't even compare in Saudi because he crashed in qualifying, but it just doesn't seem to have that pace. And the crash itself, I'm not going to go into a massive Nicholas Latifi rant and and all that good stuff we can see from his results, but the crash that he had in the race was quite.
It was bizarre.
It looks like it was really odd.
From my amateur driving perspective,
I haven't driven an F1 car.
Let's just say if the way he crashed happened in Abu Dhabi, it did almost look like he just drove into the wall on purpose, which of course he didn't. But
it was quite a pathetic crash. He's not pathetic, but the actual way in which he crashed was very odd. It, as I say, from my perspective, it looked like he went in a bit too hot. He was sliding already going around that left-hander, which would quite clearly suggest tyre temperatures, tyre wear, that good stuff. And then he's just overcorrected and drove into the wall.
It looked like when you turn traction control off on a game for the first time, when you're learning how to do the F1 game, and then you're like, oh, whoa. Okay, these cars have so much
maybe
torque,
when you drive it on the F1 game.
Depends on the force feedback.
Yeah, true. Okay, let's play the jingle, or maybe not. I don't know if you play the jingle, but
I want to raise a point about this. I've lost the jingle.
You've lost the jingle.
You've lost it.
So we have to do. It's time for.
We can sing it, but also I wonder how many people, because we do get the odd, a fair number of listeners these days. Should we send their own jingles if anyone's feeling creative? And we'll maybe have a listen to a few different ones.
Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
Contact at WTF1.com.
Send your jingle in, and it may well be the one we feature in this podcast.
Yeah, and we'll shout you out. maybe use a few different ones if we get a few.
We're actually a podcast that people listen to as well, which is crazy. Weren't we like number 3 in the UK sports
in the UK sports chart? Yeah,
for Spotify, which is absolutely insane. So thank you, everybody. I should probably mention that we are all very overwhelmed by that and thought that 3 people listened to it. So thank you, everybody. And that's us. Yeah,
our parents.
Literally chatting away. Okay, it's ABCDF1 time without the jingle. Okay, so here we go then. Let's start with Lewis Hamilton. I am going to rate him a D.
Same.
I'm inclined to. I know he had a bad car. He's not too happy with it, but looking where Russell was, and also this whole thing with pitting and like not pitting. I can't.
Was that his fault? I can't tell if that was his fault or not.
I think maybe it's Mercedes.
No, that Hamilton. Other
Fernando
people
was going
slow
pits for a long time, and there was probably quite a high likelihood that he wouldn't make it the whole way around because he started slowing after, I don't know, turn 3 or 4 or something. And it's quite a long way to get round. So you think Mercedes would pop on the radio and say, "Hi, Lewis, there's a slow car," telling him anyway. Likelihood that this could be a safety car. Get ready to box because it's the perfect window.
I think he did come out. He passed the car, didn't he? And he came over the radio and said, "There's a slow car." Then they said, "I'll come into the box, whatever." But the thing was, but I don't think it actually mattered because the VSC wasn't thrown until a lot later, in my opinion. Anyway, even if he had pitted, he would have had exactly the same length of pit stop because of the fact that, well, maybe slightly quicker because there's yellow flags out there. But there wasn't, because I think we saw Kevin Magnussen came into the pits as well, and there was no VSC until right at the end when he left the pit lane. So I think that Mercedes were obviously a little bit hesitant because the VSC hadn't been thrown at that point, and they were clearly gambling on some kind of safety car. So I'm not sure there was a huge amount more they could have done. But yeah, it's still not a great performance, I don't think, from Hamilton, of course, being knocked out in Q1 and then only managing to get back to 10th. Maybe that was partly on the strategy, but overall, Russell was very comfortably in P5, which just showed how important qualifying was. So the fans gave Hamilton a C. We've given him a D. George Russell, I'm going to give him B.
Yeah, I feel like B's fair. Sounded like almost all the drivers were really struggling as well with the race. So
yeah, I've gone for a B.
Yeah. Lovely. And the fans gave him a B. Max Verstappen.
I'd make you feel better and just me go first.
Yeah.
A.
Okay, thank you. I thought.
Can't give him an A star.
Yeah, no, A. Got fortunate with the safety car.
Yeah. And didn't qualify very well. Yeah, A. It's not perfect.
He obviously
it's close
did
to an A star.
Yeah,
but I don't think it is an A star. I don't think it was a flawless performance. That's why I was like, and I'm really glad you said A, Tommy. Thank you for coming with that. The fans gave him an A star, so they're all going to.
I thought we'd get cancelled by Hamilton and Verstappen fans just to balance things out.
Nice.
Cute. Nice.
I love that. Burn the cape, they'll be saying in the comments. Sergio Perez. I am going to give him an A star.
Yay! I was expecting to come across
as
a really
so loud. It literally
didn't come
noise
through the mic.
Oh.
Like it was the faintest. Oh my god!
Why does my mic do this? Sorry, I should not yell, but yeah, I'm giving him an A star because why not?
Yeah, could he have got Sainz back? No, I think he's so unlucky. No, I'm giving him an A. I'm giving him an A because maybe the fact that Max got Leclerc, maybe Perez could have got Sainz.
No, he got pole position and he
Perez hater.
I
know he would have won, but
but what? I can still give him an A.
But then you can still make up for it when you've been shafted. So
yeah, he could have got Sainz, but I think everything else, considering his other performances, it's definitely the best performance I've seen of him in that Red Bull, I'd say, and it deserves an A star. But no worries, Tommy. You're a hater. The fans gave Perez an A. Charles Leclerc. A. A.
Yeah, A. Yeah.
Wow, no A stars anywhere
High
apart from for Perez. Yeah. So, a high A, everybody. Please don't hate us. I mean, if I'm saying Leclerc's an A, then you know that something is not right. But no, I think it's an A. The fans gave him an A star. Jeez. A couple of A stars for Verstappen and Leclerc. Yeah, to be fair, though, they were very quick at the end and cleared off, didn't they?
They cleared off.
So quickly.
It's a really difficult grading. The gradings are always really difficult.
Taylor two halves, really.
Yeah, when almost like there's a safety car and luck changes, and then how do you factor in like luck and skill, and it's difficult.
I've just got to commit to it. Next up is Carlos Sainz. See, if I'm giving Leclerc an A, he's got to get a B.
Yeah,
he's getting a B again.
It's just not quite there for Carlos at the moment. He's just seems to fall away a little bit in the race. He seems there or thereabouts in qualifying, but just not quite there. It seems like he stays with the leaders and then just ever so slightly falls back.
I saw a very interesting question that I didn't put in.
Hello.
Because I didn't want to go in, but while we are going in, it was that Carlos Sainz. A couple of people mentioned this, that how long can it go on for before like Sainz is sort of worryingly going to get a bit of a Bottas tagline of watching Max and Leclerc. Yeah, he will.
I said it in Internet's Best Reactions. Yeah. You can see on his face
he's already getting that way. But if this is a trend where Max and Charles shoot off into the distance and he's back, like, you do have to grade him as him being in a car that can win races, and third is not exactly, third is like minimum really. So yeah, it's a B.
Yep, and the fans gave Sainz an A. So it seems like we were just a step down.
It's the rant that's just made us annoyed, and now we're
just absolutely raging F1 fans, and Max won. So I don't know why you're raging. Lando Norris. So this is where I was a little bit, I guess, assumative. I don't know. That's not a word. I made some assumptions on Daniel Ricciardo's race, which the Danny Rick fans did not enjoy in Internet Special Reaction. So I'd like to apologise.
What did you say?
I basically just said that Danny Rick was basically meandering at the back. The thing was, he pitted really early, and I wasn't massively keeping an eye on his race. So like, you just kind of see him at the back, and of course, I just kind of said he wasn't doing as well as maybe he was until he conked out. But Lando, of course, was fighting at the end for P6 with Ocon, which was quite surprising. I think that did he get quite fortunate with the safety car from what I can muster. But either way, it's very difficult to work out because we didn't really see much of them unless I'm completely off here. But the fact that he was fighting for sixth place,
that confused me. That like
he was there.
You're right. It was because we had that battle at the front. I was watching, not really noticing the McLarens. The only really time I ever noticed them was, oh, wow, McLaren are like last again. But like you say, that's probably because they'd pitted. And then all of a sudden, Norris is fighting Ocon for sixth on the line. I was like, sixth?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Not 16th, sixth. Yeah.
I'm going to give him an A just because.
An A?
McLaren were an absolute.
Yeah.
Shocking car, and I think it's a bit harsh to give him a B if he's got seventh in a car where he was not great. McLaren clearly took a step forwards this weekend, but I think if you're comparing it to where they were in Bahrain, it's a decent result.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can
give him a B actually.
I feel like B is
mainly because I gave Perez an A and I can't really mind that. But I'm downgrading everyone.
Fair.
No, yeah, B I think is a fair score. Not bad to go from where they did to 7th. So yeah, B.
Okay, fine, whatever, don't care. Right, so the fans gave Lando a B as well. Danny Rick, he was having a very good race, apparently. But he was on older tyres and Lando was right behind him. And then obviously conked out as well, which is difficult to see where he would have finished. I think his race was slightly worse than Lando's, so I'm going to give him a B.
Yeah, I gave him a C for the same reason, but all my grades are one lower, apparently.
Okay.
I'm going to go for a B as well. Just seeing on the race structure from yesterday, he was ahead of Norris, and then he had his issue. So I'm going to say B.
Okay, and the fans gave him a C. So apparently I'm not wrong at all, and he was having a mediocre race. I don't know anymore. Maybe it's just the Danny Rick fans. Anyway, next up, Fernando Alonso. He was having a great race. Was faster than Ocon, it has to be said. And then he had his problem. He would have finished probably P6, I'd imagine. B?
You'd have finished 6th, yeah.
I'm going to go for a B.
It's close to an A.
I actually know. I liked the way Fernando drove. It's an A.
Yeah, I want to give him an A.
Yeah, okay, I'll be swayed.
Love that. Fair. And the fans gave him a B. What is going on? Like we are so off the mark this week. For Esteban Ocon, I'm going to give him a B.
Yeah.
Lost that.
Yeah.
Questionable defending as well. I think he needs to watch that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a bit
I reckon
naughty.
Fernando had some serious words with him after in the motorhome or wherever, because that was sketchy. So B for Ocon, and the fans gave him a B. Pierre Gasly. He drove with the worst pain he's ever experienced in his life. He didn't know what was wrong with his intestines or something. So I think that alone is an incredible dedication and whatnot. And he scored some points as well, didn't he? He finished P8. It's P8, yeah, it was.
Yeah, P8.
So I'm going to give Gasly a B.
Yeah, I can't really be grading drivers higher just because they've got their intestines are about to explode. So yeah, I probably have to go for a B.
I love the way you did. I thought you were going to get a bit of a tummy ache, and they're like intestines exploding. I mean, yeah,
a bit graphic.
Is a
well
B.
Done.
Good drive.
Cool, and a B from the fans. Yuki Tsunoda had a great drive halfway around the field before conking out. Not even on the formation lap, on the drive round to the grid.
I want to raise something here. Is this the first completely ungradable driver because he also didn't take part in qualifying?
Yeah.
I think it's got to be kind of like what Vettel. Like Vettel's not there and just can't give him a grade.
Could not be graded.
Yeah.
Fair.
So Yuki Tsunoda master plan can't get beaten by Gasly if you don't race.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just do one race, it's really good. And then
big brain Yuki time.
The fans gave Tsunoda a C.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, they had to vote for something.
Yeah, exactly.
Nico Hulkenberg, very, very anonymous. Very anonymous. And he was left out there on a strategy that just meant he was getting passed by everybody. But he hasn't been good, Hulkenberg. So obviously he has gone into the car last minute. But at what point do you start to go like, well, actually, you've been in the car for a while now?
Kevin Magnussen got in the car last minute.
Yeah, D.
Gone first. C.
Okay. Why?
To take a step back from the mic.
Why?
Sorry,
I mean, I was going to say he finished 12th, but there was only 13 finishes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
all
I can't
things
give him
considered, I think it's a C.
It's just bang average, really.
Okay.
Sorry, I dropped something if my mic went weird there.
I could hear whatever you just dropped, but it's fine.
You just dropped Nico Hulkenberg's hopes and dreams there.
Okay, have I been horrible to Nico? I'm now questioning everything.
No, not really. It's just kind of.
I think this could be the last time we see him in an F1 car as well.
Yeah,
so
it's a shame.
Sad.
Did you go for a C, Katie?
I did, yes.
Yep. Okay, and the fans gave Hulkenberg a C. Lance Stroll.
It's rant time.
Go on, Tommy.
Does Lance Stroll's car have mirrors?
Go on.
I have watched back the Alex Alban crash, and it is identical to Yuki Tsunoda's in Brazil. And yes, I will admit it is a late move. But if you're like anyone that's played a Formula One game, if you're driving into a corner where someone's in your DRS and someone is alongside you, you don't just take your line as normal. He just cuts into the apex. And I'm not saying that like it's completely his fault, but I'm looking at both those incidents and thinking they're 50-50. And I've watched that Albon one.
And Alex Albon got a penalty as well.
And he got a penalty and penalty points. And I'm just wondering how many times are we going to see someone try and overtake Lance Stroll, him just take his line like they're not even there, and then the other person get a penalty? Because then like Stroll's ruining his own race anyway because he's cutting them up and getting taken out. I just think that it's a little bit of a, takes two to tango situation. And
yeah, fair.
I watched it back and I was like, honestly, you would not, that is a normal overtaking spot. And he even defended Alban because he knew he had DRS, and then just gets into the corner when he's alongside and just turns in as normal. It's not, for me, that's just a bit not great, not great racing. Like, no, it's particularly good racecraft. So
D for Lance Stroll.
Gone for C, but
Aston Martin literally finished 12th and 13th, and we're going for C's. What's going on here?
Well, he would have, yeah.
What are we doing here?
It's just average.
He gave Hamilton a D and he finished 10th.
He did qualify 16th though, didn't he?
Yeah, but he had setup issues.
Had no rear end, actually. No. Apparently in the steward stock, it said that Alban locked up and collided with car 18. But my goodness, that must have been the quickest lockup I've ever seen in my life. Because, like you said,
locked
from
up
watching
at
it
the
back,
apex, did he not? Like when he realised that he was about
Stroll
to,
was turning in on him. Yeah.
Very odd. But,
I don't know.
it's a D for
I'll go
Lance.
for a D as well.
A D. Okay, nice. Love that. Okay, so finally, one of you agreed with me. Cool. And the fans gave Lance Stroll a D. Nicholas Latifi, F. Moving on.
Sorry,
we still give out U's.
Yeah, we actually, if we do, A, B, C, D, E, F, 1. No, F.
Yeah, F.
You can't have
A, B,
FU.
C, D, E, F, U, 1. No, so F, and the fans gave Latifi an F. Alex Alban didn't have a great weekend either, to be honest. The fact he was dive bombing Stroll for P27.
It's impressive.
It's got to be a D.
Yeah, I've got a D.
Yep.
The fans gave Albon a D. Valtteri Bottas, he was having a good race up until his car braking. I'm going to give him a B.
E.
Yeah, we've not mentioned the weird lap where just half the field just broke down all at the same time. That was
Bottas,
so
Ricardo
bizarre.
and Alonso all breaking down on the same lap.
B for Bottas.
It'll be like what was the conspiracy theory where there was like it was Hamilton at Brazil with the EMP gun or whatever it was.
Yeah.
One of the conspiracy theories of like just someone just turning off everybody's car. Bottas got a B from the fans as well. Zhou Guanyu, he ended up finishing 11th, which is going to be painful for him.
I'm annoyed at this.
Weekends.
Alfa Romeo completely messed him over.
Yeah,
they
did.
completely forgot to do the 5-second wait. And
of course. Yeah.
Ruined
they had a weird
race.
thing with the whole jack, didn't they? Where they...
Yeah.
I don't know if...
Not good. Not happy.
Yeah.
I felt like... Because you're not allowed to move the car at all, are you, when serving the 5-second penalty? I felt like there was just massive confusion where they've gone, oh, that doesn't work, so we'll try this one. And they've probably thought, oh, well, he's waited 5 seconds. But the problem is you're manipulating the car and you're not allowed to do that. So...
If you don't serve a penalty, though, you can be disqualified from the entire race. Like the stewards are fairly lenient and be like, we think it was just an innocent mistake. But here, had Alfa Romeo just continued and not done it, and what do you mean?
Well, he was
got
11th.
Disqualified.
No, not being disqualified.
It's like he wouldn't.
He finished 11th.
How much did he lose?
Well, he had the issue again at the start, didn't he? Where
that was odd, wasn't it?
It's happened both races. It happened to Bottas and him in Bahrain, and again, because you heard him on the radio go, F star. It's happened again or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he qualified 12th, which is like decent. So, this is C, I think.
Yeah, it's got to be a C, I think. Katie?
Sorry. I was I got distracted by something. Yeah, I was doing some work. I don't know. I feel like I want to give him a B because I feel like he could have been higher. And yeah, you mentioned the clutch issues and then the fact that Alfa Romeo screwed him over. So yeah, B.
Okay. But we both went for C's and the fans also went for a C. So Zhou Guanyu with that. Kevin Magnussen, he had a weird issue with his neck in qualifying, and I was kind of thinking he may not even be able to challenge in the race if his neck broke or whatever he was saying in interviews, which doesn't
not
sound
a nice thing to hear, no.
Yeah, it doesn't sound particularly pleasant, but solid work from Kevin, finishing P9. I think it's a B because I think he could have got more. He said in qualifying he could have qualified higher if he didn't have that problem. So I'm going to go with B.
Yeah, B.
B.
As if we're giving a Haas driver who's scoring points a B. That is 2022 things. The fans gave Magnussen an A. Mick Schumacher. I mean,
difficult to grade as well.
It crashed in qualifying. So, I mean, on the basis of giving Latifi Fs for crashing, it's going to have to be an E for Mick, I think. But we wish him all the best and hope he gets better for Australia.
What did you give him? Sorry,
an E.
Yeah, I think that's fair. F because Latifi crashed twice, and E because Schumacher crashed once, but he did then stop himself from racing. So
yeah, he couldn't actually.
It seems harsh when someone has a horrific crash that you're like almost like being like, it's very harsh. But I mean, it was his mistake, I think, wasn't it? I think
it was a minor mistake, but it's still a mistake, unfortunately, and it cost him the entire weekend, unfortunately. So yeah, and the fans gave him a C. Now we get to the Saudi GP predictions. You haven't put in mine, Tommy. This is Saudi. I thought this was next week. I was like, right. Saudi GP predictions. So I went for Merck, another podium. That did not happen. And Red Bull fall further behind Ferraris. That went well. That's a big 0 score from me. Katie?
I went for a red flag in the race.
We
and it was pretty much you were.
I think you
that's so obvious.
I think you lose a point.
Minus point.
No, that's not fair. I'm just glad there was no red flag, to be honest. Yeah. So I'm happy that there wasn't a red flag, and I'm happy not to get a point for that. And then I said porpoising will be really bad, and I'm taking that because it was. Thank you. Tommy literally made a graphic shared a thing on Friday of making a porpoising joke about it being really bad. So Tommy, you've given me a point there.
Was it worse than Bahrain?
The word really. I think we're gonna have to get Team WTF1 to decide.
Well, they love me. So
they love me. We have to decide.
Team WTF1, I love you.
Okay, we'll give you half a point. I'll allow half
a point.
I think half, because it wasn't really bad. Let's be real. Here. It wasn't really bad. Real. It
wasn't really bad, but it was pretty bad.
I've got the drivers on the phone telling me it's really bad. So.
And hello. Oh yeah, no, half a point. Okay, cool. So, Tommy.
Mick Schumacher first points. That went well, and Ricciardo out in Q1 again. That didn't happen.
That's a solid 0. Half a point score for all of us. Well done, everybody. Timo 2920263. Red Bull will have another double DNF. No. _Scott Elder. 0 points for any Mercedes customer team. No, because McLaren. Yuri _1996. Back-to-back victory for Leclerc. No. I bet you were. But that was you, Tommy. But that's your burner account. And the Australian Grand Prix predictions. I've gone for one Merc, or both, doesn't matter. At least one Merc doesn't make Q3. And Haas, no points. Just feel like Australia, bad times for them. They didn't put on their wheels properly a few years ago. So that's bad times. Katie?
I've gone for a different one. I suppose.
What am I reading? So I went for both originally, Tommy. I put in the group chat. I'll go with both Mercedes into Q3. You've allowed go on, Katie, say it.
Ferrari pole.
You've allowed Ferrari pole to get through the.
Well, that's like a 50-50 chance.
The sieve of
Tommy judgment. Exactly. It could be anyone on pole.
Exactly.
I'm just bending this all the way again.
Okay, fine, whatever. And the other one?
Thanks. Magnussen top 5 in quali.
Fair.
Go
okay, Mag. By the way, return of the Mag T-shirt live on the WTF1 store right now. Tommy?
I've gone for at least 4 DNFs. And I've gone for...
Specify them, please.
Yeah. Point now, then.
Russell makes it 2-1 in quali.
Interesting.
So...
Lovely. So beats Hamilton. Shady _Man United signs getting his first win. AF 1555, new team on the podium for 2022. And Roberts _Epners, both McLarens out of the points. Wow, the McLaren hype is not real with Roberts. There you go. That is quite a long podcast. So I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you to all the Team WTF1 members who have been watching this live for the last hour and 40 odd minutes and 10 minutes of preamble as well. That was good fun. Tommy, final thoughts?
Yes. Max, super Mac. There you go. Enjoy that.
You absolute.
I loved your face then. That was worth it. That was worth waiting an hour 44.
Katie? Wow, you guys don't get any better at this. Oh, why do your brains just stop working?
I'm even going through my Twitter to see what I've put over the weekend to see if there's anything I can mention, but Yeah.
But nothing was of interest. Is that what
No,
you're saying?
don't follow me on Twitter is what I'm saying, because I tweet absolute rubbish.
Okay, brilliant. So is that your final thought? Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. My final thought is I can't wait for Australia. Looking forward to the new track layouts in Melbourne. Sorry, is it Melbourne or It's Melbourne.
Melbourne.
And I always go Melbourne, and everyone's like, "Shut up, Matt, that's wrong."
People do that with Silverstone, though. I say Silverstone, but it's Silverstone.
Potato.
So, yeah, literally, it is tomato.
Melbourne. Look forward to going to Melbourne, and the new track layout, because it's supposed to be faster, quicker, better, stronger. Excellent stuff. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Hashtag WTF1 podcast if you want to get involved in the discussion.
Do your jingle.
Do the jingle, send it to contact@wtf1.com. Look forward to my ranty video, although you have already heard a rant. Go and watch the ranty video of the F1 TV direction as well.
Double run upload day.
Yeah, double. Yeah, love that. And we will see you very soon for another podcast. Goodbye. 1-1, whatever, Tommy, don't care.
Ask ratio.